And in the next 60 minutes, 9 alleged coup plotters slapped with the highest crime against the state, treason felony. We have details as your family invokes cases on anyone who testifies falsely in the trial.
If you are telling a lie, what do you do to a person who is lying? The gods will know what to do with them. The blood of Alavanyo, the blood of Pando, and the blood of Avatime cannot be spilled free easily.
Well, two of the suspects have been discharged, but lawyer for the accused say the whole case is nothing but a drama to denigrate his clients.
This is a drama. They will try as much as we will not fight scam, but we will expose any person who wants to frame other people, to frame this innocent citizen.
Our credibility ahead of 2020 will be dented if Ghanaians reject referendum to elect MMDCEs. President Akufo-Addo has been speaking there as he charges chief executives of assemblies to make it happen.
It's going to look very bad if a manifesto commitment by the NPP administration within a year of going to the polls cannot deliver on it. We have to deliver on it. Otherwise, our credibility will be very much at stake in 2020.
But the president is meanwhile convinced his government has met the basic needs of Ghanaians.
We have a day of accountability, 7th of December 2020. And it is important that on that day, we are in a position to give a good account of our stewardship.
And in business, we hear from a financial consultant on how charging former directors of the defunct banks could impact the sector.
The Normalization Committee has rejected Wilfred Osei Kweku Palmer's appeal against his disqualification for the Ghana Football Association presidential race. We'll try to find out the details in that communication to Wilfred Palmer.
And that's in sports and business. Later on, protesting law students call on President Akufo-Addo as a matter of urgency to initiate steps to reform legal education now.
We are calling for the President to intervene by directing the Attorney General to order the General Legal Council to withdraw the illegal undertaking signed by students.
We'll get reactions and also hear from Deputy Attorney General Godfred Dame on the findings of the committee tasked to investigate mass failure of law students here on Newsnight. You want to join me with your views and comments, send me a WhatsApp 0244340437. My name is Evans Vincent. Later, the Joy Clean Ghana campaign makes strides as mailers at the Mokola Market comply with directive by the AMA sanitation inspectors to clean up. We have details of day 6 of the award-winning sanitation campaign. You want to stay with us for the news night. Is always brought to you by Prima Card from Prima Energy. Cash-free convenience. Now, they were first charged with possession of arms and ammunition without license, but that has changed. And now, Dr. Frederick Yao McPalm and 8 others face the charge of treason felony. The alleged coup plotters were arrested last month during a joint security operation that led to the retrieval of several arms, explosive devices, and ammunition from locations in Accra and Bombaoleshi in Dodoa. Now, state prosecutors allege the men, including a serving military officer, intended to engage in a series of demonstrations geared at toppling the government. The Kaneshie District Court today, State Prosecutor ASP Sylvester Sari explained why the new charges being filed against the accused. My colleague Joseph Akable was in court and is in the studio with me. First, run us through the names of the accused persons standing trial.
So first, there's Dr. Frederick Yao McPalm, who is a medical practitioner. There's Donya Ezokafui, a local weapon manufacturer. Bright Alan Debra Ofosu, aka BB or ADC, who is identified as a freight manager. There's Colonel Samuel Kojo Gameli, who is a senior military officer, like the title suggests. There's Gershon Akpa, a civilian employee of the armed forces. There is also Warrant Officer 2, Esther San. There's Lance Corporal Ali Solomon, Corporal Seidu Abubakar, and Lance Corporal Sylvester Akambiri. There are 2 other individuals who were also charged initially, but the charges against them have been dropped, and so those 2 are Corporals Godwin Ni Ankra and Albert Baba Ibrahim.
Okay. So we know previously they've been charged with basically unauthorized possession of arms, ammunition, etc. Today, treason. Did the prosecutor explain why the sudden change?
And so, first, specifics in terms of the charges, then the reason was adduced by the prosecutor. So there is conspiracy to commit crime, namely treason felony. There is also treason felony. Then there is conspiracy to commit crime, namely possession of explosives, arms, and ammunition without lawful excuse. And finally, possession of explosives, arms, and ammunition without a lawful excuse. Now, according to the prosecutors, they monitored these individuals who they see are members of a group, Take Action Ghana. They said they intended to engage in series of demonstrations and subsequently intended to topple the government. We are told, in terms of fresh information that is coming from the prosecutors, that there were some key facilities and security installations that they intended to take control of. So the first is the Jubilee House, which we know is the seat of government. There is also the Bema Camp, the headquarters of the Ghana Armed Forces. There is also the 37 Military Hospital and the state broadcaster, the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation.
So these are the areas that the state is alleging these individuals wanted to take control of.
In fact, the facts of the case that was read, they said that one of the items they picked from them was a map that had a sketch of these facilities on the map. And they had said that these are the areas that they intend to take control of once they go ahead to execute the plan.
37 Military Hospital, the GBC.
Jubilee House.
You want to take over Jubilee House.
And Bema Camp.
The entire Bema Camp, the military base.
Yes.
So these are very fascinating details that we are now beginning.
In fact, if I can just read that part, it says that that in the course of their meetings, the accused persons agreed to design a map to depict some important state installations and facilities, including the Flagstaff House, Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, National Police Training School, which I left out, which is the police depot, Bema Camp, and this map is to facilitate the movement of the accused person during demonstration and taking over of government. And it goes on to say that in furtherance of this, they asked someone to produce weapons for them, including AK-47s, explosives, which we are now learning again that they said the explosives, some chemicals were to be added such that wherever they are utilized, if you happen to be close by and you sniff any of the smoke emanating from it, you'll be dazed and fall asleep for close to an hour.
I see. What happens now?
The next date is we are supposed to return on October 28th for the case to continue.
So, but there was drama once the case itself has ended after the treason charges had been read out, etc. Outside, some of the family members took matters into their own hands spiritually.
Yes, so when we exited the courtroom, I just saw a gentleman with a bottle of schnapp, and he was flanked by others, some wearing red, and he just started pouring it, and so we can listen.
The libation we poured is mainly for those people that they will be calling as a false witness to come and testify against them. We pour libation that the gods of Alavanyo, the gods of Pando, and the gods of Avatime should take care of them.
When you say take care of them, what do you mean?
If you are telling a lie, what do you do to a lie a person who is lying? The gods know what to do with them. I don't know what the gods will do with them. But the gods of Alavanyo, the gods of Pando, and the gods of Avatime, they are not alive. The blood of Alavanyo, the blood of Pando, and the blood of Avatime cannot be spilled free easily. Somebody who is doing this probably, I'm using the word probably, is doing it for a favor, for a promotion or for something, so that he's making allegation, false allegation against them.
I see. Well, lawyer for the 9 accused persons, Victor Adaodu, insists his clients are innocent of the charge. He is questioning alleged video in the possession of managing news editor of the Crusading Guide newspaper, Malik Kwekubako Jr., which implicates his clients.
Who and the rest? What happened? We were here. We were in Ghana. It was the same Kwekubaku that he had the document, everything. What happened? Nothing happened.
On the substantive issue, are you saying that there's no video recording of your clients engaged in such discussions? Is that what you're saying?
I'm yet to see it. and they would.
Would that
put
not be
it,
something that may come up during trial? Won't you want?
So
to
why will he jump and prejudice
the
the
journalist
matter?
who has access to information which is putting out.
Who gave him that information? Is he? That's why I'm asking a question. Is he a state? When the state, even the Attorney General says, I've not even seen the docket. I don't have the facts. The Attorney General, who is the principal legal advisor to government, haven't even seen it, and he has seen it. And in what capacity did he see it? These are issues you need to. And I'm telling you that this is a drama. And I'm telling you that they will try as much as we will not fight government, right? But we will expose any person who wants to frame other people, to frame this innocent citizen. We will expose that person. That once they try to do that, tomorrow is a law of karma. When he bans it today, it will come today and their generation. So if there's social media and people are discussing what is wrong, things that are pertaining in the country are not well with citizens, then you want to guard them. I'm sure they will embolden people to even go on social media, and they will see more of what citizens feel, how they feel, and say it. Maybe in this one, they may have said issue of, maybe, I haven't seen any issue of treason, but they are alleging. So if that is what is said on a platform, so that's why you take them on. So we will wait. But I still hold the view that this is a drama.
The state responded directly to allegations saying that it cannot waste taxpayers' money to frame people.
I've been in this business for a decade and a half, and I know what the state does. So why do they, when they are prosecuting, why is it that there's cases? You hear the hula baloo, hue and cry. They arrest the people, they take them. At the end of the day, what happens to the case?
You're saying this will go nowhere.
Day, I can give you one clear example.
In this particular instance, you are saying it will not go anywhere.
I'm telling you that let them take it on. Didn't we see Kennedy Agyapong when he was taken for treason? What happened to the matter?
Joseph, we also learnt a bit more about the items retrieved from them.
And so first, there's 6 unregistered pistols, 1 registered pistol, 22 explosives, 3 hand grenades, 63 rounds of ammunition, 2 empty AK-47 magazines, machines and other mechanical tools used in manufacturing of weapons. Also found in the first accused was a sketched map which depicts some important state installation, including the Flagstaff House, Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, 37 Military Hospital, the National Police Training School, Bema Camp. And I conclude by saying that the police said they are still investigating the matter.
Okay, we'll see how this unfolds once the case gets back to court. Joseph, thank you very much. Well, law students this week had protested. It turned a bit chaotic when the police had to break up the protest with rubber bullets, tasers, and water cannons. Well, they are not stopping yet. They are piling more pressure tonight on the president, calling on him to direct the Attorney General now and Minister of Justice to present a bill to Parliament to amend or repeal sections of the law to make legal education more accessible. They've been addressing a news conference today.
We respectfully submit that the fact that the GLC is chaired by the Chief Justice does not make it an agent of the judiciary. The Chief Justice, as the chair of the General Legal Council, is not performing a judicial function, but a special function assigned under Act 32. We hereby state without equivocation that legal educational policy is an executive function and not a judicial function. The reforms we are calling for can only happen when the President causes the Attorney General and the Minister for Justice to present a bill to Parliament to either amend or repeal Act 32 to give a new direction and institutional framework for legal education in the country. It is for this reason and this basis that we are calling on the President to act now to reform legal education to make it more accessible, equitable and affordable, and give opportunities to as many students who qualify to do so. In the short term, we are calling for the President to intervene by directing the Attorney General to order the General Legal Council to withdraw the illegal undertaking signed by students ahead of their taking the entrance examination. Students are forced to sign off their rights to contest the examination results as a prerequisite to clearance for entrance into the Ghana School of Law. So what that means is that if you do not sign that I, Prince Ganaku, hereby acknowledge that I do not have any right to contest. I have no right to contest these results. Then your admission will not go through. You will never be given.
Well, I have been speaking to the Deputy Attorney General, Godfred Dame, 4 p.m. Express later tonight, and he says an amendment to the Legal Professions Act, which is set to be considered by Parliament when the House resumes, holds a solution to the concerns of the students regarding access. The amendment seeks to impose quotas on law faculties across the country. Already, there is opposition to the proposed amendment. Both the chairman of the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, Ben Abdallah, and his ranking member, Inusaf Hussaini, say they are personally opposed to these amendments because it actually imposes further restrictions to legal education.
If you were to ask my personal opinion, I will not support the quota system. That is my personal opinion.
Okay.
But the committee is yet to meet to have a thorough discussion on it.
Mr. Hussaini, is this latest amendment something you also support?
The fact that we as a committee refused to or decided not to sit on that amendment is evidence of the fact that we didn't think that it would fix the problem because the government was looking for quick fixes.
So the two most important men on the committee looking at these amendments say they are opposed to it, and Mr. Hussaini actually extends it to the point that it looks that this is a view of the committee itself. You can now listen to Godfred Dame, who makes the argument that, in fact, that position may be born out of a misreading of the particular provision and the amendment as has been put before the Parliament by the Attorney General.
The Attorney General, in recognition of the fact that, in recognition of the expansion of population, in recognition of the enhancement in interest in people to pursue law legitimate as it is, has come up with a bill which is before Parliament. And that bill seeks to establish or allocate what we call quotas to recognize universities. If, as the Attorney General has proposed in the bill, there is the allocation of those quotas, it will require that it will necessarily imply that, say, University A will get a quota of about 60 students, depending on the size of the faculty, depending on the pressure on the university in terms of access, in terms of application to run the LB program. So we find that ultimately, as a result of the allocation of those quotas, a higher number of students will be churned out and who will be qualified for admission to the law school.
So because the quota, that is actually limiting.
No, it's not limiting.
Because you're now giving a set number beyond which an institution cannot go.
No, it's a misconstruction. And again, that is why. Okay, I'm coming.
Because quotas by themselves are limited.
No, but
in number.
Okay, excuse me. I'm saying that. So, if the quota is understood within the context of the ordinary way, like say WTO quota, for instance, then you consider this way.
The students say to me that that is further restricting. Now they actually believe the GLC is spreading its tentacles of control and restriction from the Mokola to the faculties. They say that is further restriction of legal education.
I have two responses for that. The first response is that even the quotas that will be allocated, there is no guarantee that even a quarter or 1/5 of them will be met. Because indeed, that quota, it doesn't necessarily mean that necessarily we must admit 50 students from that school. They must pass an examination.
I spoke to the chairman and the ranking on the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committees.
Right.
The committee sees with this particular amendment. The chairman, who is from your own side, Ben Abdallah, says personally he's against this particular amendment. The ranking, who was also on the line, Mr. Hussaini, I'm sure is a good friend of yours, also says he's opposed to the amendments as proposed. That clearly tells you that you don't have the support, at least of these two leaders of that particular committee. Something must be wrong with that particular amendment you're proposing.
Well, I think, first of all, it stems from a misunderstanding of the whole concept of quota. And even at the outset of this program. Well,
they've done this job for a while. Mr. Hussaini, Ben Abdallah have
they're all very good friends of mine, Honorable Banda, very helpful and all that.
You surely can't say they misunderstand the bill,
because
amendment that they look at.
Of course, they have the prerogative of making any amendment to the bill. So rather than tearing it up as if it's an act and binding on the nation, we ought to properly interrogate and find other means which will improve the state of the law as it is now.
Well, he also says the mass failure of students seeking to enter the Ghana School of Law this year was not because of limited space, but rather one of poor performance of these students.
Yes, and authoritatively I can say that indeed if 1,000 students had passed this year, they would have gained access to the law school, because indeed there had been provision, there had been fiscal provision for that.
So there were 1,000 places?
Yes.
So this is purely a case of students not meeting the standards?
Precisely, simple. And I think that fact ought to be recognized first. So the problem must be examined. That is why the law students, if you clearly examine the comments and the concerns that they raised, we're talking about marking scheme. So it's not a case where you could say that the law school had only 120 places for law students this year. It is not so at all. It was not a question of the law school placing a cap or placing a limitation of 128.
So this isn't the case of no space?
Definitely not this year, definitely not.
You had 1,000 spaces.
Yes.
Students were simply not good enough.
It's a case
to
of
take up the 1,000.
Precisely. It was a case of only 10% passing.
Well, thankfully, we can now bring in the president of the National Association of Law Students, Jonathan Alua. Jonathan, thank you for your time here on Newsnight. You just heard the Deputy Attorney General there. He said students were simply not good enough. There was enough space. Only 100 plus were good enough to enter and take the place.
Well, Evans, good evening, and good evening to your cherished listeners. Let me just, by way of information, that I'm the SRC president of the Ghana School of Law and one of the leading members of the association, not the president of the association.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Yes, on the issue of the number of people who passed the exam, I find it rather sad that at this point we have to look at 93% of students who took the exam and tell them that you're simply not good enough for professional legal training. It's rather sad that we have come to that point as a country where people have to take the LLB, have been deemed to have passed the program, and then these ones sit for an entrance examination, and we are courageous enough as a nation to tell 93% of them that they are not good enough. Well, the Deputy AG knows a lot more on the inside than I do, and I heard him say authoritatively that if 1,000 students had passed, there would have been, 1,000 spaces for admission at the Ghana School of Law. What I'm saying right now is to put the matter in perspective and to be able to put this issue to rest once and for all. One of the things the students are asking for, because people feel strongly about their script, and I'm sure the Deputy AG is aware and has heard that most of these students signed up their right to contest this exam. For some of them who genuinely feel they should have passed this exam, I think it's about time we saw the marking scheme, we have it published so we know, and then we are clear as a nation that, look, let's stop making noise about the failure.
Jonathan, in fact, the Deputy AG says the students shift the argument to marking scheme because they know that they simply failed, they simply poor. And his argument is that there was enough space this year, 1,000 spaces, and you just didn't take it up because you just didn't meet the mark. Did you know that there was enough space, at least for this year? Was this something that the students knew?
No, but as I said, he's in a better position to speak to that issue.
Okay, so that's to say students didn't know this beforehand?
No, students didn't know.
Yeah.
Because over the years, the biggest number we've had is 524. That was the 2017 batch. So it roams around 500, a little over 500. And so if the past was anything to go by, then students were expecting that number, of students to be admitted.
But if it's true that it's indeed 1,000 spaces indeed was available for you, and yet only just a little over 100 passed, doesn't that make his argument stronger that if all of you had really, at least 1,000 had meet the mark, you'd have gone into the Ghana School of Law?
No, Evans, I am in the Ghana School of Law. I took my entrance exam last year. In my year, 465 students passed that exam. So I'm saying that if that number were anything to go by this year, we should have been expecting around the same number. However, the deputy AG has made us understand that they were even prepared to double that number, except that the students simply weren't good enough. What I'm saying is that let's not shift the goalpost. If we are saying the students were not good enough and the students are agitating and everything, let us publish the marking scheme. Let us put in place the avenues for some of these people who feel strongly about their script to call for remarking of their scripts by other examiners, not the same people who mark their scripts. And let's put the issue of this particular failure rate to rest once and for all. But that would take our attention away from the fact that as a country we have problems with legal education. The deputy AG, I don't know if he, because I joined you late, I don't know if he has already spoken about the issues on the inside. Like at the Ghana School of Law, for instance, the remarking fee is pegged at 3,000 cedis per paper.
And he agrees. In fact, he agrees that should be reviewed. In fact, he's going to be on PM Express, where he addresses all these comprehensively. One of the things he talks about, though, is that the amendment to the Legal Professions Act, which is before Parliament, he believes it's a solution to the access challenge, which will impose quotas on the faculties. What's your own reaction to that, as the SRC president of the law school?
But I think that he couldn't have been wrong with that. Act 32 is the parent legislation, and that provides a framework for legal education in the country. All the arguments we are making are probably going to be theoretical and policy arguments until we transcribe them into the law. And so in the medium to long term, what we should do is to make sure that all the things we are saying, all the change we are clamoring for should be reflected duly in the law. And so he's right about that. And there's currently an amendment before Parliament, and all these agitations should inform us as a nation to ensure that all the views are taken. We, do a proper introspection into legal education and all of that. And at the end of the day, whatever we pass out of Parliament as the new act that regulates legal education should reflect 21st century needs in legal education.
Jonathan Alua, thank you very much. And just as we've been speaking today, the Occupy Ghana, the pressure group, they've just issued a statement as well. Malik Dabo is here with a copy. What's Occupy Ghana's position on this?
So, Occupy Ghana, first of all, condemned the attack on the demonstrating law students by the Ghana Police Service, men of the Ghana Police Service, and then proceeds to deal with the matters relating to professional legal education. And let me just read the portions that relate to that. They say, we must also emphatically state that the time is ripe to address the root cause of this matter, the inability of the state to provide sufficient facilities to enable law students from the various law faculties and law schools gain access to professional legal education. We cannot, as a people, grant accreditation for several law faculties and law schools to be opened and run, and then maintain the current size of the School of Law for the professional law course, a completely unjustified bottleneck and another evidence of our lack of planning. It is a fact that the introduction of the entrance examination and the SWAL interviews remain a formalized knee-jerk reaction to a problem that has an obvious solution that we refuse to provide. Ghana is not an island. Several other countries have resolved this problem in a manner that allows prospective lawyers to be trained and given the opportunity to write the final bar exams. However often they may write it. There is nothing wrong with learning from others and adapting what we learn to suit our purposes. The government cannot absolve itself of blame in this regard. It is statute that created the General Legal Council. That statute gives the council the power to regulate professional legal education, sometimes with the approval of the Attorney General. We insist that the same legislative process should be used to fix this problem once and for all. The last paragraph, a country of almost 30 million people cannot be proud that its official roll of lawyers has just about 3,000 lawyers. A ratio of 1 lawyer to 10,000 citizens is highly anemic, and any existing or new policy that unduly restricts access to any form of education, especially in the developing economy, is not forward-looking and should be jettisoned. The time for action on this matter is now, and this buck stops at the desk of the government.
Malik, thank you very much. And what are your views on this? A few of your comments already coming through. Jagos from Someone says, I just hope law will deal with these people who try to overthrow the government now that they have been charged with treason. They will know their fate. Musa Abacha says Evans from the word go. The whole drama was just a diversionary tactics using kitchen knife to stage coup, charging for unlawful possession of arms, moved to treason felony. It must be made clear that authorities that will use the power of the thumb to kick them out, he says. T. Matt from Amasaman says, I'm so surprised. What brought about the entrance exams in the first place? Was it not because of lack of space? So if indeed they had place for 1,000 people, why won't they take up the 1,000 if indeed they had that space? They are just throwing dust into our eyes. And as I say, you want to join me at 9 p.m. on a PM Express. I'll be hosting Godfrey Dami, who is the Deputy Attorney General. We'll be going through all the details in terms of government intervention, some happening in the background, including the General Legal Council's own committee that was set up, its findings and the implementation of that, plus the timelines as proposed to fix this particular problem permanently. A lot to get into on PM Express tonight at 9 p.m. on the Joy News channel. Still ahead here on News Night, well, we'll tell you about what happened today when the Joy Clean Ghana campaign hit the road. There was some good news in terms of what they found today. They've been discovering a lot of bad news. Today was a good one. The campaign has been making strides as millers at the Mokola market comply with directive by AMA sanitation inspectors to clean up.
I think you can see that we are making a results. We are getting results. See the place. It has been flowed and tied very well.
Details of that. We have details of the 6 of the award-winning sanitation campaign. Join me with your views on this. And George is here with the business. And George, today, Stanbic Bank scored a new feat with the introduction of a credit card with some very fascinating features. What does it mean for this market?
Well, there's a plan to go cash light or be less heavy on the actual cash. So development or moves by some of these banks to move away from the cash to card system again will help a lot, because as a country it costs us a lot to print these physical cash. So if more of these banks are moving into that space, and also if the settlements can even be done locally and all the rest, it has a good impact on the economy, and also less cash being used and more card being used for various transactions in the economy.
Credit card, it really started. I was bought.
You signed up already?
I was sold on the idea. I was really
Did
scared.
You sign up already?
I will. I know you were rich already, so you're sorted, right?
Nigerian man will say, God bless your mouth now.
What else you have in the headlines?
Well, in business, financial consultant Charles Menzer optimistic moves to recover funds from directors of the defunct banks could help consolidate confidence in the banking sector. And the World Bank is predicting some exciting times for the economy in the coming months, despite recent fiscal challenges with the country. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one-stop shop for all your office essentials. And First National Bank, we are the bank that understands your business. First National Bank, how can we help you?
So everyone says I'm a Kosia filler, but it's not like I'm nosy or go out to find out the latest filler. It's just that I get 50 megabytes of data free after paying for only the first minute of every call. And so I just keep discovering stuff minute after minute. That's how come I was minding my business, scrolling through my timeline, and I found out Coco has a new baby. Oh, and last week I learned Ken won the lottery. You see, Ken is my brother's friend. So hello, look who's about to roll with the rich and famous.
Enjoy even more value with MTN Free After One. You only pay for the first minute of your call on MTN Free After One, and the rest is free. Plus, you enjoy free 50 megabytes worth of data to browse your favorite sites. So dial *315# to sign up. We day for you everywhere you go. Terms and conditions apply.
The Kingdom Books
this year back-to-school promotion is in conjunction with Citidia Supermarket. Buy school items worth 100 Ghana cedis from Kingdom Books and get 12% discount voucher to purchase from Citidia and vice versa. School items include textbooks, pens, pencils, erasers, exercise books across all Kingdom Books branches in Accra, Tema, Kumasi, Takoradi, and Cape Coast. Kingdom Books, where quality and affordability is assured. For further information, call 0302 764209 or 0302 746101 and 0501 401050. Terms and conditions apply.
Joy 99.7 FM.
Welcome back to Business on Newsline. Now, financial consultant Charles Mensah is optimistic that moves to recover funds from directors of the fund banks could help consolidate confidence in the banking sector. His comments follow the state decision to charge founder of Capital Bank, Atuesian, and other directors of the institution. So Mensah tells Joy Business this could send signals that anyone who is alleged to have run down a bank would not walk away freely.
The system have allowed a lot of rumor to fill it. There's been a lot of rumor, and money doesn't like noise. So there's been some noise as we speak. But if this court, the judgment that will follow, the investigation, the details that will follow, it will send some clarity. So people would have read facts, and then we would feel confidence will be restored. Some confidence have been restored, but it will be restored fully if all the facts comes out. So it will dispel all the rumor. Because these days, because of social media and all those things, rumor run fast. But when it comes to finance and financial matters, I don't think we should play with rumor. It has to be facts. Facts.
Charles Mensah is a financial consultant. Now, the World Bank is projecting some exciting times for the economy in terms of growth and pickup in activities. Now, this was after the bank's outlook for the economy projected of some exciting times after they launched the Economic Outlook report that is Africa Pulse today. Albert Zugefek is the chief economist for Africa at the World Bank.
Nigeria, South Africa, and Angola are still having extreme difficulty recovering. Growth is therefore drawing the average in sub-Saharan Africa down. Excluding these three economies, the rest of Africa is still growing at around 4%. So Africa's average growth is projected at 2.6% this year, 2019, but the rest of Africa is still performing well, although we have started to see some tempering of growth in some of the fastest economies.
Albert Zufak is the chief economist at the World Bank. The Africa Pulse report looks at how the various economies around the world fared, including that of Ghana. Now, currency expert Kofi Ampa is optimistic that the recent regulatory measures by the Bank of Ghana would indeed help firmly stabilize the local currency. His comments follow recent blips that has hit the Ghana cedi, resulting in some marginal depreciation for it to hit at 5 Ghana cedis for the 6 pesos. Mr. Ampa tells Joy Business this challenge should be seen as seasonal. He cites the forward forex sales as a critical measure that could soon help deal with this challenge.
This is a direct policy that is looking at stabilizing the currency within this time where the demand is high for the currency. So now they are going to auction $125 million, I hear, into the market. At least this is positive. It's just that we need to know how the effect will be in the long term. I mean, all these are short term. Let's not forget it. These are short term measures that the central bank, because they know the trend that this is the time that if there's any destabilization or some fluctuations, these are the times that it happens. So they are bringing it now to help stabilize the currency within this time where there's high demand for the currency.
Kofi Ampa is a currency analyst. Now, Cocoa Board paid a little over $10 million as interest on its last year cocoa loan syndication. Now, this is what we picked up from documents submitted to Parliament on its 2018-2019 expenditure. That's details in this report.
Based on the document, Cocoa Board paid $10.2 million as interest on this loan from October 2018 to January 2019. While $8.1 million was paid as participation fees. So let's say the total financing cost or how the money was raised, we could be looking at almost $20 million paid. Also, about $30 million was paid in what the board classifies as industry inputs. Now, a chunk of Cocoa Board's expenditure went into what it classifies as farmers' costs and operations. From Cocoa Board's accounts at the Bank of Ghana, we realized that 1.29 billion was drawn from the central bank, leaving about $1.2 million as balance at the Ghana International Bank. Well, engaging industry players, the cost of raising and serving the loan is still less expensive compared to developing countries like Ghana, and looking at the country's credit ratings of B with a stable outlook. Some analysts have argued that Cocoa Board may even have a better sovereignty than the corporate entity called Ghana when it comes to raising funds outside the country.
And that was a business desk report. Let's turn our attention to the stock market. And if you hold shares of Farmwork, was up by 3 pesos to close at 4 Ghana cedis, 53 pesos. That's all for Business on Newsnight.
When next are you in the US? And I know you travel to the US almost at least twice every year. Why are you smiling? You do that every year. This year you've been there once already.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. When next are you in the US? You're afraid of what's coming next. It's a simple one, really. Because of all the money you carry, you probably will need
a Stanbic credit card signing up.
Yes, you will.
Okay, I'll do that.
George Yaffe, the money man, cash man. Thank you very much, George, for business. Still listening to Newsstand here on Joy 99.7 FM. Now, President Akufo-Addo today joined the campaign to get Ghanaians to vote yes in the historic referendum to get MMDCEs elected later this year. The referendum is on the 17th of December. The president is worried that unless the state machinery, including the current DCs themselves, get involved in the process of whipping up public support for the Vote Yes campaign, it might be a difficult time for the government, because it was a major campaign theme which actually found its way into the party's manifesto as well. Well, he's been touring the Ashanti region today and has been speaking to 27 assemblies, the chief executive of these assemblies, as part of the efforts to get them to appreciate the urgency of the matter.
Let us take this referendum seriously. Speaking on a purely partisan level, I mean, it may not be what I should say in front of our civil servants, but let me say, nevertheless, it's going to look very bad if a manifesto commitment by the NPP administration within a year of going to the polls cannot deliver on it. We have to deliver on it. Otherwise, our credibility will be very much at stake in 2020. And since all of us, our position from president to district chief executive hinges on the victory of the NPP, we should be careful about jeopardizing the chance of the NPP in the election ahead of us. A whole lot of things are going to be said to be able to give us the teeth and the wherewithal to prosecute this campaign. But for myself, I have no doubt in my mind that it is a progressive step that we're taking, and that the reputation of our government and of our tradition for being in the forefront of reforms of the body politic of Ghana, the deep and entrenched democracy, are going to be further heightened and emboldened by this step that we're taking.
Well, the president started his tour from the Menchia Palace, where he met with the Asantehene and later addressed a mini rally at Asokori Zongo and Ejuso after inspecting some ongoing projects. According to him, despite limited resources, government has met the basic needs of the Ghanaian.
Going around the country, what I see is that the main thrust of what government is trying to do in reversing the years of decline and decadence and in reviving of the spirit of our nation are being strongly embraced by our people, especially at the local level. Yes, there's grumbling. There's bound to be grumbling. The cake is not big enough for all of us. So when the resources are scarce, there's going to be all kinds of muttering as to how the resources are distributed. And if there's not enough, I was telling the Minister for Agriculture on the way here that I've spent the almost 3 years that I've been in office, becoming a master of how to rob Peter to pay Paul. Largely because I didn't come to meet a treasury worth the name. And I've had to be very inventive and creative in trying to find ways of getting money to get our programs on the way. But the grumblings aside, I'm satisfied that we have acted in a way to respond to the basic needs and aspirations of our people for progress and for development. And we see it in so many areas. For us, the politicians, we have a day of accountability, 7th of December 2020. And it is important that on that day, we are in a position to give a good account of our stewardship. I'm confident that we will be in a position to do so.
And that is President Akufo-Addo there speaking on his tour in the Ashanti region. We'll be going live to the Ashanti region very shortly, speaking to Yaw Jima, who has been following the president today. We'll also be speaking to Kojo Nkrumah, who is with the president, also getting a sense of the reception it's received, but also the concerns the president has tonight about the referendum and the possible outcomes that might bring. A few of your messages on social media pages. This one says, "Hi Evans, the gentleman who poured the libation at the court premises to, he believes is to disgrace the voter region. It's not everyone who is in favor of this behavior." KB is from the central region, and he sent us that one. Let's go to the Ashanti region now. Let's speak to my colleague, Nana Yaw Jima. He's been following the president in the region. He's on the line with me right now. Nana, so give me a sense of how the president has been received in the Ashanti region ahead of his visit. I know our colleagues in Alaba FM had spoken to some of the residents, and they had many concerns, the roads, etc., that they put before him. What has the reception been?
So the reception for the president in the Ashanti region hasn't changed much, but a lot of people are not happy with the pace of work at the various areas where road construction is taking place. For instance, earlier the president went to the Lake Bosumtwi Road, where it has been on for some time. Road construction of that road has been on for some time, but people there are not happy with the pace of work there. And most of them are saying that the contractor has been off that road for a period of time now, and most believe that he just came back because the president decided to visit the area not long ago. So the sentiment of the people have not changed much, but they are happy with the pace of work on these roads, which have become a major concern for the people here in the Ashanti region.
Jima, thank you very much. The Information Minister, Kojo Nkrumah, is also traveling with the president. He's on the line with me right now. Mr. Nkrumah, thank you for time here on Newsnight. So, is the tour over, and what has been the general reception?
Well, we've just finished the very final stop for today in the Amansia area, and the president has, throughout the day, been engaging with chiefs, some people, citizens of these various areas that he's visited, inspecting some of the projects, seeing for himself the progress of work, where we are behind schedule, where we are on schedule in some of these instances as well. And so today's work has generally led to a rousing reception for the president. I'm sure you've seen from the photos and the videos, you've seen a very rousing reception from him. But in the midst of that, we still have the opportunity to discuss some of the outstanding issues like roads and other infrastructure programs.
Just before he went in there, my colleagues at Alaba FM had done not a scientific sample of any imagination, but it's speaking to people in the Vox Pop, and the concern was, this is your World Bank, and yet the roads are terrible. Has this feedback reached the president in terms of this is a place that you get majority of your votes in terms of regional balance in terms of the votes? And yet they say,
Absolutely.
well, give us
Absolutely.
more. Give us more
Absolutely.
to match how much we give you in the elections.
Absolutely, and that's why His Excellency the President himself is on the ground, touring many of these areas and seeing for himself the progress of work. Today, from Ejusu or to the Susain drainage and other systems, there is a lot of work ongoing, but there's still also a lot of outstanding work that you find citizens raised with him. And when he paid a courtesy call on the Asante Hene, he himself voluntarily spoke to the subject that he won't speak much about it. He has come to inspect and see the progress, and what is outstanding is what you now see as a quickened effort to complete a lot of these projects, some of which have not been completed.
We also had concerns that, the roads are in the state they are because of money's owed contractors. Has this come to his attention? When will these be addressed?
The administration has come up with a program to ensure that this October, I think over 2 billion cedis is made available for paying contractors on various infrastructure projects, majority of them being road projects. Remember, we come from a time where a lot of contracts were given when there was no clear path of how they were going to be paid. A lot of contracts were given for political reasons, also because of the kind of pressure that politicians go under to construct these roads. And when the resources are limited, especially at a time when we had even gone to the fund and we had said that we had chewed the meat down to the bone, resources were limited. It is a reality, but the new administration has found ways and resources after capping and making available some of these earmarked funds, found resources. And I think this month, October, as you noticed from the Finance Ministry, a lot more releases are being made to contractors to ensure that those who have left site because of outstanding certificates, those who are not on track because of funding issues, get a lot more liquidity to complete the projects that are underway.
I'm grateful that you could join us. That is the Information Minister, Kojo Nkrumah. Hans Mensah Andor is with the sports team and is here with the latest on the world of sports. Hello, Hans.
Hello, Evans. And I'm sure you'd noticed that over the last 3 or so hours, the Normalization Committee has responded to the appeal of Ghana Football Association presidential aspirant Wilfred Osei Palmer. Essentially, his appeal has been rejected, and of course they mention a number of things. That the notice of appeal was received on Monday the 7th of October 2019 at 3:40 p.m. Also, the notice of application for an interim injunction on the decision of the GFA Elections Committee pending appeal was also received on Monday the 7th of October at 5:05 p.m. and that the statement in support of the application for an injunction pending appeal was received on Monday 7th October 2019 at 5:05 p.m. And they conclude by saying, we regret to inform you that based on the above listed document received before the deadline, your approval was unsuccessful. Ebo Apia is a member of the Palmer campaign team and he joins me on the line. Hello, Ebo.
Good evening.
Good evening, Ebo. Thank you very much for joining me. And naturally, you are not satisfied with the outcome of your appeal, are you?
Yeah, we are definitely not satisfied with the outcome of that appeal. It's much that of injustice and manipulation, and we think that it's premeditated. We have intercepted a tape of Kofi Amon clearly in May, stating that he was going to make sure that Mr. Osei Palmer will not contest. We have filed a petition against him to the Ethics Committee of FIFA. We will copy all the relevant bodies. We'll copy CAF, we'll copy the President of the Land, we'll copy the Minister of Youth and Sports, we'll copy the Parliamentary Selection Committee on Sports. And we think that this is not good for Ghana football at all. It's been 18 months that we are all waiting for our football to be normalized. And this is a gross injustice. Look, at 3:40 we filed an appeal. At 5:05 he personally claims that we filed a statement. Yet at 5:30 she has an audio copy of the record of proceedings. So in one breath she's saying that she received, and that was 24 hours clear before the deadline. And she says that she received it at 5:05, and yet she gave us an audio of record of proceedings at 6 o'clock. So where is the injustice? Pledge that we are not owing. So she appeal. You must be able to tell us so and so sat on the case, and based on that, your appeal was on.
And I think that you've issued a statement in which you've mentioned that you are reliably informed that a meeting was held yesterday at 19 hours GMT by Dr. Amoana Odofole and some secretariat staff at the GFA to discuss Palmer's appeal. And it continues to say that you are amazed to hear that no committee sat on the appeal. Is that the case?
Yes. The accused that we are very ethics. We have proven beyond reasonable doubt the assumption is not true. And what she does, she knows she will be caught. Because that's wrong, they don't want to sit on the case at all. And you see, we're not a kangaroo system. It's the Republic of Ghana. People must act prudently. People must act. This is not right.
So real quick, Ebo, beyond the petition to the FIFA Ethics Committee, what other avenues or channels are you looking to exploit?
They think so for the ask for delegates means so they think that by the time we go to CAF and come, they will have one step back. You have every single day we will file a petition and we know what to do to make sure that the elections will not go on without Wilfred Palmer. So it's ahead of all of us.
I'm grateful that you joined me. Ebo Apia is a member of the Palmer campaign team. And that's your sport, Evans.
And apologies for that bad line there. Hans, thank you very much. Now, 2 of the 4 mills shut down by the Accra Metropolitan Assembly last week for operating under unhygienic conditions have resumed after the refurbishment of their facilities. The 4 were found to be milling all manner of food items under terrible conditions at Makola Market in the central business district of Accra. Non-CMF Rajadosi, however, reports there had been a total transformation when the Joy Clean Ghana campaign task force returned to the market for day 6 of the campaign.
They had very dirty floors.
So if you are able to cement the place, renovate the place nicely, you come and inform us from the office, we'll open you.
Wires were hanging dangerously.
Look at the electrical wires all over here. Supposed to bundle them, tie them, tape them all together.
The millers shared the place with cockroaches and had turned the mill into bedrooms with dirty clothes hanging around.
Can you see cockroaches all over? So you blend this thing with cockroaches all over.
Today, Inspector Asetanga suggested the team go back to re-inspect.
We asked them to improve upon their production premises by painting, by flooring, cementing the floors. So we are here this morning to follow up through all that we did last week to see whether there is compliance or not.
The inspection began at the pepper mill.
See that the day we came, the floor was dusty, it wasn't cemented. The walls were very dirty with potholes all over. The wires were exposed. You can see that they floored the floor, they've painted the place. The wires have been taken care of.
A quick check at the second pepper mill, the same place the team found cockroaches, revealed things were a lot different now.
We are getting results. See the place. It has been floored and tied very well. Have gone to the medical school?
Yes, I was.
Okay. So continue to clean the place. When we come and we see the place nasty, we will not spare you.
The miller, who was full of praise for the team, promised to maintain the cleanliness. The tomato miller had painted the entire place, but his wires were still untidy.
I tell you, when we came the last
time, I didn't hear anything.
We told you that get qualified electrician.
But I've reported for them.
For who?
For electrician. Those will come and fix the meter for me. Please, I'm
take your valuables out. Take your valuables.
So
we will lock the place later. Come to AMA office and then you do what we
I report for that. They say
no problem. So you let's go out.
He wasn't the only person who was shut down. This operator of the granite mill, who was painting at the time of our visit, also had his shop closed down for one reason.
What did we tell you to do? You feel you operate the way you are operating, you will not comply to our law. Where is the clean? You clean here, you have this. When you saw us, you started packing them and piling them up. So which one have you cleaned?
Can you imagine this for what?
The place that got the inspector angry was the mill, where lime was being milled with a corn.
What do we do? Should we put your place up for you to clean the place? Look at the whole place. We asked you to do. You haven't done anything. Director, this corn mill